It is now 7:06 due to the overrun of a previous meeting, but time to open the March 21st, 2022 Westfield, Washington Township Advisory Plan Commission meeting. Will staff please note the presence of a quorum?
Ms. Berkman, Mr. Deck, Mr. Horkey,
Here.
Mr. Johns,
Here.
Dr. Kelleher,
Here.
Mr. Maui,
Here.
Mr. McCarty,
Here.
Mr. Schmitz,
Here.
Ms. Boljaric.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Moving on to approval of the minutes of our March 7th, 2022 meeting. Is there a motion to accept these minutes into the record?
So moved.
Motion by Victor McCarty. And
Second.
seconded by Dave Schmitz. Will staff please call the roll?
Mr. Horkey.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm not used to this anymore. Okay, Mr. Johns,
Yes.
Dr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Mr. Maui,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz. Yes. Ms. Boljaric.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I missed who did the motion.
The motion was Victor and seconded by Dave.
Thank you.
Will staff please note the rules of procedure for tonight's meeting, which does not include any public hearing
Yeah,
items.
thank you. Items on your agenda this evening, as mentioned, do not require a public hearing. As such, the department will summarize the petition and highlight any changes or modifications since the item was last before the Plan Commission. The department will also describe what action is necessary to be taken. The petition will be given up to 15 minutes to present any changes, and the Plan Commission will then act upon the petition. And just we ask everybody to speak directly into the microphone and make sure that your microphone is turned on when you're speaking and off when you're not.
Thank you. Moving on, we have no consent agenda items tonight, and we have two items of business, first of which is the Grand Millennium Center PUD Amendment 2, 2203-PUD-04. Kevin will give a brief intro for us this evening.
All right, thank you. Mr. President, members of the Plan Commission, for the record, Kevin Todd with the Community Development Department. This item is a request for an amendment to the Grand Millennium Center PUD for the addition of approximately 1 acre to the real estate, to the existing Grand Millennium Center PUD. The real estate proposed is to be added to the mixed-use district of the Grand Millennium PUD. Property is located at 515 Park Street, which is generally located at the southwest corner of Park Street and Poplar Street. This item received a public hearing at your March 7th meeting. There were no comments at that hearing. Since that time, there's been a few staff-driven modifications, tweaks, really just clarifications to the ordinance itself. Those have been made, and it is now ready for your recommendation this evening. Birch Dalton, representing the petitioner, and some of his team are here to answer any questions that you may have regarding the petition, but they do not plan to present.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I did raise a question earlier and was advised that the request was made to the petitioner to change the number in the ordinance itself to Amendment 1, since we're handling this now. And Amendment 1 was already filed. That should become the second amendment whenever it is that it's ready to come back. Has that been done? I did not open the item on the screen in front of me.
Yeah, so what we've what we thought would be best, since Amendment 1 was already introduced, and I believe it received a public hearing, even though it's kind of stagnant. It's already out there in the public realm. We thought it would be confusing to modify this to Amendment 1. But I do think we would also recommend that there be some kind of change, since this will be being adopted hopefully prior to what was previously Amendment 1. So our suggestion was to simply just not number it and label it Grand Millennium PUD District Amendment. And then if there is a subsequent amendment adopted later this year or in the future, that can be Amendment 1.
Okay,
So that change can be made between this meeting and the council meeting if the Plan Commission moves forward with this.
okay. That being said, is there any other commentary from Plan Commissioners present in the building tonight? To my left, no one? To my right, anyone? Dr. Kelleher, do you have any comments?
I just have one question, and I talked with staff about this earlier. Under the ordinance, under the Exhibit A, I think, Exhibit A is blank. Well, the formal one is blank, and then Exhibit A shows 3 areas, none of which appear to be this area in total. So I'm not sure what this diagram means, or if it should even be in the ordinance. I think it's confusing.
I can address that. I agree it's confusing. I think what this is trying to demonstrate, so this kind of orange color here is the acre in question that's being added to the Grand Millennium PUD. These other shapes represent other real estate transactions that are not part of the zoning petition, but related to this potential project. So I think it is adding some confusion. Our suggestion is to similarly just have a simpler map put together prior to council seeing this on their agenda.
Okay, that sounds good to me, because we may understand it now, but 10 years from now, somebody's going to go, what?
Yeah,
So,
agreed.
all right, thank you, Kevin.
Yep.
Kind of continuing along that thought, the Exhibit A indicates that it's a legal description, then there's this handwritten Exhibit A. But that's followed by something called the Moyer 1.0 acre Park Street site
Well, I
that
think
reads very much like a legal description.
Exhibit A, this is like the title page, in this, the next 2 pages are part of Exhibit A. That's common, how we see our ordinances that way.
So
There can be a
makes
separate.
it look like, makes it look like there isn't really a legal exhibit or,
Yeah, it's the second page.
legal
down.
description. rather.
Yep.
Would it be less confusing if the handwritten Exhibit A was called A1 or B, perhaps? Another change between now and council so that it gets past the Moyer 1 acre park site description, so it actually flows in a logical order.
Exhibit A says it's the legal description, so it seems to me that the Moyer 1.0 should be the first thing that you read after that Exhibit A.
We can
And then if
flip.
they want to add the diagram of the property itself, that's just an added. But it seems to me the first thing after Exhibit A should be the legal description, because that's what it says Exhibit A is.
Yeah, we can make that change.
Okay, if that's okay with everybody and there's no other comments to share or ask, we're ready for a recommendation to council, a motion to send a favorable or whatever. Do we have one?
I'll make a motion that we send a favorable recommendation to the city council for 2203 PUD-04, the Grand Millennium Center PUD Amendment 2.
Second.
Or amendment without a number? Or amendment without a number? Or
In the title.
all right, so we have a motion by Andre Maui and seconded by Victor McCarty to send a favorable recommendation with the changes anticipated before council receives it next week. Staff call the roll, please.
Mr. Horke,
Yes.
Mr. Johns. Yes. Dr. Kelleher,
Yes,
Mr. Maui,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz. Yes. Ms. Bulgaric.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Moving on, the other item in front of us tonight is a Plan Commission Order 2201. And do we have, did you say Jeremy was going to present virtually on this, presumably then, since I don't see him in the room? Or are you going to take care of this?
I don't see him either. Beth, are you on the call? Not to put you on the spot here.
Beth is on the call.
Yes, I'm on the call. I'm sorry, I was struggling to get unmuted. Yes, I am on the call. Is Jeremy not physically present?
He is not, and he has not vocalized anything from a virtual connection as well.
Okay.
Are you prepared to explain what we're completing here this evening?
Well, Jim Crawford from my office is also on the phone. Jim, I'm not sure, are you better prepared to be able to speak onto this order? I know that we both kind of thought that Jeremy was going to be present to talk.
Yeah, not really. I'm involved with ultimately with the TIF bond financing for this. What I do know about it is this is the Front Street project that is bounded by, I think, 161st on the south and Union on the east, and 31 on the west. It's a mixed-use development. I think that the attachments on your documents that are accessible on your agenda go into more detail. But as part of it, there'll be some senior living, some commercial retail, hotel, multifamily, totaling about 30. You go to some quick adding, 23, 28, 35. About 56 or $57 million in net assessed valuation when it is built out, which would provide a healthy increment to pay for the roadway construction, landscaping, the pedestrian bridges, contingency, right away and roadway land purchase.
Jim Crawford.
That's what I know about it at this point.
Say, I just texted Jeremy. He
Hello,
said he will join the meeting.
This is Jeremy.
Oh, you're on, good. We are talking about Plan Commission Order 22-01. You are anticipated to provide an explanation prior to our action on this. Are you able to do so?
I apologize.
Perhaps while Jeremy's preparing, if he has more that he wants to say, I can certainly offer a bit of procedural history on this as well. If the commission recalls, late last fall, this was an item that was, this particular land was also on the agenda. And at that point, we were eliminating the economic revitalization area that had been established because at that point, it was exclusively residential. And therefore, it was lowering the overall increment for that particular TIF. So this board voted, or your purpose in this entire TIF process is once the RDC has adopted a resolution, the responsibility of the Plan Commission is to adopt an order saying that the proposed use of the property is in compliance with the comprehensive plan. This board agreed with that last fall, and as a result, signed the order, and that was sent to council, which then went back to the RDC, and the residential component of this, that ERA was eliminated. At this point, there's a new project that's proposed. It's a mixed-use project that includes commercial, and that is why the economic revitalization area is being resurrected, for lack of a better word, in order to capture the increment that will now be developed I believe specifically in the area where the commercial is going to be developed.
And so, yes, Beth covered that very well. It's the Lantern Commons PUD that was approved not long ago. The RDC to this evening approved the declaratory resolution. Were there other specific questions that I missed prior to getting on call here?
No, we were actually awaiting the initial introduction and explanation. If you have nothing else to offer, we'll go ahead and solicit Plan Commission comments. Let's start with the virtual attendee, Dr. Kelleher. Dr. Kelleher, questions or comments for Jeremy or other members of the legal team?
I can barely hear you.
Oh. Just was offering the floor to you
There we go.
first.
Oh.
Questions,
For
comments
me?
on the Plan Commission
Okay.
Order 2201?
This is Kelleher. I can barely hear you. Do you want me to say something now, or is somebody else speaking?
No, you are welcome to speak.
Oh, okay. I am confused, not about what the order is about, but where the real estate is located. The picture that's on my screen right now is the entire Lantern Commons. And that is not what we are voting on tonight, right? We're not voting to put this on this entire piece of real estate.
Yes, you are. So we would be establishing a new economic development area on the old Lantern Commons PUD, now under Front Street Partners. The entire thing, there's no single family residential on there, so the entire thing is eligible for increment capture.
Okay, I got it. The fact that there's multifamily on there doesn't matter.
Correct. There's a multifamily is a 2% ratepayer and can be captured by the TIF.
Okay,
And
I got
It's
it.
considered
Thank you
commercial
very
by DLGF.
That's what I was confused about, because it seemed like we took the residential out and now we're putting it back in, and I was thrown off. All right, I got it.
DLGF counts apartments as commercial rather than residential, as opposed
Okay.
to single families.
Thank you.
Thank you. That is a eye-opener for us here because I was similarly confused. All right, present. I'm blasting here in City Hall. I'm not sure why Dr. Heller has trouble hearing me, but any questions from the Plan Commissioners present in City Hall?
I have one.
Okay, Cindy Spoljarek.
Our comprehensive plan calls for this to be employment corridor. And while I know that the PUD does include the multifamily component of this, it doesn't necessarily mean that it should, that it has to, right? I mean, does that economic development area have to include the entire PUD? Anyone?
Yes, my
legal
answer is if it does not include the multifamily, you're not capturing that increment, which will be used for infrastructure purposes.
And I would agree with that. So the multifamily is a large component of the increment that will be generated.
Yeah, the figures I've seen are net assessed valuation of about 21 million for multifamily out of the 50 some or $60 million net AV for the entire project. So it's about a third of the net AV.
But what are we looking at expense-wise beside the road that is our obligation?
What the proposed development agreement will include the Westfield Boulevard connector, which is everybody's aware of, and it's on our thoroughfare plan. There are some public park amenities throughout the development that will be a part of what we would be proposing later on. And then there is a potential for a couple pedestrian bridges to create a grade separated crossing for the Natalie Wheeler Trail, both over Westfield Boulevard and 161st Street.
I don't remember there being public parks in this PUD.
They are parkettes, if you will, small public amenities.
Well, those aren't usually in our park plan for us to take on. I'm
Correct.
just trying to
And
understand
if
what's included in.
down the road, when the development agreement is approved, if those are things that you do not want to support, then we can have that conversation at the time. But, and likewise with the pedestrian bridges. However, without the multifamily in the TIF district, we don't have the increment to support the roadway either.
What about road impact fees?
Impact fees will be included in the development agreement as well. It'll take all of it to fund what will be proposed.
Okay, just trying to understand all this because I wasn't aware of any agreement with this.
Yeah, there's no agreement being proposed at this time. We're just trying to reestablish the EDA so that we can.
I know every
As
time we
we
do these
discussed late
EDAs, though,
last
you
year.
know, ultimately, that does take away money for services. And while I realize that's not the jurisdiction of the Plan Commission tonight, as a counselor, that does concern me.
Understood.
Very good.
Yeah.
Questions, comments on this side? No. All right. No further questions. This is in front of us for a approval. And so we're looking for a motion to approve Plan Commission Order 22-01. I think Victor McCarty is going to.
I guess so.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve Plan Commission Order 22-01.
Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded by David Schmitz. Will staff please call the roll?
Mr. Johns,
Yes.
Dr. Kelleher,
Yes, sorry, I had to unmute.
Mr. Maui,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz. Yes. Principal Jarrett.
Yes.
And Mr. Horke.
Yes. Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, that completes our items of business for this evening. And go all the way to page 3 for reports and comments. Are there any comments from Plan Commission members? Does not appear so. Kristen Berkman is traveling and not on the call because of being in an airport. So we will not have a downtown update tonight. City Council Liaison.
City Council met March 14th. The mayor issued a proclamation for March Disability Awareness Month. And by the way, today is World Down Syndrome Day, just for the public to know. I gave an ARPA committee update, both the application to apply for funds for nonprofits and the evaluation criteria that will be used to objectively assess the requests are available on the city's website. The deadline for the first submittal is Council did approve a, is that me? Sorry. Council did approve a $5 million pledge for the YMCA construction, pending an acceptable project agreement. An ordinance to establish the Westfield Advisory Council on Disability did not pass. The stakeholders are working with elected officials and others on efforts to accomplish goals outside of a council-created and appointed group. There was concern by councilors that appointments were political and laws governing council-created groups would be suboptimal for effectiveness and efficiency. We had a voluntary annexation fiscal plan approved for Shear Property Group Phase 1, which is near State Road 38 and 216th Street. We had an introduction for a voluntary annexation for Phase 20 of Chatham Hills. We introduced 2 PUD amendments that will be heard here next month, Osborne Trails and Grand Park Village. We also heard comments from the public concerning local need to more comprehensively address the concerns of the disabled community, and also concerns that there's just too much development, drainage issues, improper buffers for more agricultural uses, loss of wildlife and habitat. Council President Mike Johns proposed a semi-annual report to keep residents more informed of what's going on. And I think we intend to do that, right, Mike? Yep. And the clerk treasurer discussed ongoing software and security concerns in her office. That was it.
Thank you. There was a Board of Zoning Appeals meeting, also known as the Board of Swimming Pool Appeals.
Yep, that's exactly what we had. We had 2 swimming pool location variances that were both approved, relatively minor encroachments, and they were both approved, and that was it.
Very good. Community Development Department.
I have no update this evening. Thanks.
Very good.
Have we had any movement, Kevin, on our changing our process and moving to the?
Yeah, we are very far along on a draft. We're hoping to introduce it at council in April and bring it through the UDO amendment process in April.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thanks.
That concludes our business. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Councilor Spiljerik, and is there a second?
Second.
Dave Schmitz. Okay, please call the roll.
Dr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Mr. Maui,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
Ms. Biljerick,
Yes.
Mr. Horke,
Yes,
Mr. Johns.
Yes.
Motion carries.
we are adjourned at 7:33.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.